Good morning, candidates. My name is Raghav and I will be the tutor for your course. This is the first lecture from me through the Utkarsh Digital Classes to target JEE mains. The first topic that we will touch upon today is kinematics. Our lectures will be in English and Hindi for the ease of the participants. First, let's note the important topics from this chapter. They are vectors, rectilinear motion, projectile motion, relative motion, and circular motion. Candidates should take note that every year 1 to 2 questions come from this chapter. So it's easier to score in this chapter and you should not let go of these marks. I will discuss the tips and tricks to solve questions as we go along. But let's first build a strong foundation. Vectors will basically lay a strong foundation for the entire course that we are going to study. Rectilinear motion is basically motion in one dimensions. Projectile motion will take into consideration 2D motions or motion of a ball thrown from a building or a projectile thrown from a moon, anything of that sort. Relative motion is very tricky and yet very exciting. You are likely to get a question from relative motion in the paper. Relative motion is basically motion with respect to another body. Circular motion is indeed another exciting topic from this chapter, and many questions have come in the past few years from this topic. So without wasting any time, let's jump into the first topic, which is vectors. Alright, so first we start with what is a vector. A vector is something that has a direction and magnitude. I'm sure that you might have studied it already before, but let's discuss it very quickly. So, for defining a vector, what you need is you need a reference frame. You have an origin, you have an x-axis, you have a y-axis, and if this is a 3D plane, you have a z-axis as well. So, for example, this is the trajectory of any part. If this is the particle at any point P, so this vector from the origin of your reference frame will be noted as the position vector. The position vector can be split into the different components. For example, here you can see that it is split into xi cap plus yj cap plus zk cap. So any point which has the coordinates, for example, this point has the coordinates 3, 2, 1. So its position coordinates are 3, 2, 1, and thus the vector that you will write for it is r is equal to 3i plus 2j plus k cap. I think everyone is comfortable with this. Next, let's talk about velocity. Velocity is basically the derivative of position vector. So v is equal to dr by dt. So when you need to find the velocity from the position vector, what you need to do is you need to apply the operator d by dt to r. This operator, notice that this operator does not have any I caps or j caps, it's just a function. So when you apply this d by dt to r, what you get is you try to differentiate everything that is inside component wise. So you have dr by dt is equal to dx by dt plus dy by dt dz by dt. Note that derivative of a vector gives you a vector again. So derivative of position vector gives you velocity. For example, in this case, my particle is having a velocity in this direction. This is my velocity. Alright. Let's talk about the next derivative, which is d square r by dt square. This quantity is known as acceleration, which is dv by dt, which is the derivative of this quantity. Again, it is component wise derivatives. So you have dvx by dt, dvy by dt, and dvz by dt. These three terms come from here. Alright. Acceleration is basically a change in velocity. Velocity and speed are a little different concepts. velocity is a vector quantity while speed is a scalar quantity. So for example, if this is a circular motion, my acceleration can be in this direction. All right, let's look at something else. This quantity is called the average velocity. It's basically your final position minus initial position divided by final time minus initial time. These are some of the things that you should remember from this chapter. And let's go to the next section to see and look at a question so that you can clear this doubt very clearly. This is our first question. Assume r is a position vector as a function of time. So r is 2t I cap plus half t squared j cap minus 4 by 3 t to the power 3 by 2 k cap. Now the question asks you to find what is the velocity, what is the acceleration, and find the distance and magnitude of displacement between the times t is equal to 0 and 1 second. The third part is what I would really want to stress upon, because this has been asked before in the JEE as well. So you need to be sure of what is the difference between distance and the magnitude of displacement. Let's first look at with the velocity very quickly without wasting any time. Velocity is equal to dr by dt. So when you take the derivative of r, what you get is you get 2 I cap plus t j cap minus 2 root t k cap. Similarly, when you write the acceleration, you get dv by dt, which is again component wise differential. So what you get is j cap minus 1 by root t k cap. This was simple. Now the third point is very interesting. Let's say what the first thing is. Let's talk about displacement between t is equal to 1 and 0 and 1 seconds. So basically your displacement is equal to final position minus initial position. Let's put it for the final position, put t is equal to 1 second. For the initial position, put t is equal to 0 second. In r, when we put these quantities, we find that rf is equal to 2i plus half j minus 4 by 3 k. All right, and ri is equal to 0. So when you find delta r, you find delta r is nothing but this quantity, because the second quantity is 0. Now we are supposed to find the magnitude of displacement. The magnitude of a vector a, for example this is a vector a, is equal to root over square of its components, ay square plus az square. All right, so when we find the mod of this quantity, what we find is 2 square plus half square plus 4 by 3 whole square is equal to 2.45. This is the first result. Now when you look at distance of this quantity, that's a different ball game altogether. So how do you calculate distance? Let me erase the velocity part so that I can have enough space for you to learn about distance. So distance is basically an integral of the mod of your speed. So basically distance d is equal to an integral of speed into dt. Now how do you do this? So basically first you need to see what your integral of speed is. Now speed, we have the velocity already. To find the speed, it is basically the mod of the velocity for our consideration here. So my speed is equal to integral of 0 to t, because 0 to 1 second, 0 to 1 second of root of t square plus 4t plus 4 dt. Why this quantity? because we are squaring the velocity that we got already. Vx, this is Vx square, this is Vy square, and this is Vz square. So you have basically squared these terms. Now, now you look at the next thing. You simplify. This is basically whole square. So you get of t plus 2 dt is equal to 2.5. So what you find is distance is not equal to mod of displacement. This is what you need to know. So what we learned from this question is how to calculate distance. First of all, if you are given a velocity vector as Vx plus Vy plus Vz, to find the speed, to find the distance, you integrate the speed, and to find the speed, what you find is you find the mod of V. Alright, let's move to the next section. The first section of this topic after vectors is rectilinear motion. So in this motion, there are two kinds of motions. One is called uniform motion, uniform acceleration, and the other is variable acceleration. Uniform acceleration will consist of both a is equal to 0 case, which is constant velocity case. So the first diagram that you see here is basically a constant velocity diagram, where you can see that the velocity in the y-axis does not change with the x-axis. Also note that the velocity time, the area under the velocity time graph is basically dv is basically v into t, this quantity, and we already know that this is similar to distance or displacement. Let's look at uniform acceleration. When the acceleration is uniform and non-zero, you have that the velocity changes over time like this. All right, and it's a linear graph because acceleration is constant. Now let's go down. The important formula from rectilinear motion are as given below. V is equal to V naught plus at, or in common terms V is equal to U plus at. This is the final velocity, this is the initial velocity, this is the acceleration, and the time over which we are applying the acceleration. Next is we need to find the position of a body in terms of the initial position, initial velocity, time, and acceleration. So that is given by this equation. Final position is equal to initial position plus initial velocity into time plus half into acceleration into time square. I think you are already comfortable and aware of these equations. Third equation is v square is equal to u square plus 2a x minus x naught. Look at this. This is basically your total displacement, which is called s. So the general thing that you learn is v square minus u square is equal to 2 into a into s. These are the basic equations that you should remember. One of the most important equations from this chapter is this one, s is equal to u plus v by 2t, because sometimes they will just provide you with the initial velocity, the final velocity, and the time, and then they will ask you to find displacement. It's easier to derive it from these three basic quantities, so this you should remember. Also, sometimes they might ask you what is the displacement in the nth second. For example, if I have a body moving with some acceleration, then how much does it move in the 5th second or the 10th second or something like that. So for that you need to use this formula, which is displacement in the nth second is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration by 2 into 2n minus 1, where n is the second, like 5th second or 10th second. Let's go down. When the acceleration is uniform, there will be questions from graphs. They've often been asked, so you should know what you're plotting. An IXT graph for acceleration will look either like this or like this, depending on whether a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. Why is this? Because acceleration is nothing but the del d2 square by dt square of x. Now we know that if this quantity is greater than 0, we get a concave up. If this quantity is less than 0, we get a concave down. This quantity is nothing but acceleration. So let's move further. Just take a note of these equations. If you want to stop anytime, I can stop. These are important equations. Let's go to a question to clear this quickly. All right. To solve the questions of physics, it's very important that you do not panic. You already know what is required to be solved. When you look at any physical problem in JEE or any exam that you give, first take note of everything that is given. So let's look at the problem. Rahul drops a ball from the top of a building. All right. So you can, for ease of access, you can make a building like this. For example, this is my building, and Rahul drops a ball from the top of the building. The ball takes 0.8 seconds to fall past the 4-meter length of a window. So there is some window here, which has a length of 4 meter. All right. Let's mark the ends of the window, which is some distance below the top of the building. Okay, I've drawn this thing. Determine the speed of the ball when it passed the top of the window. So the ball was dropped from somewhere here. We don't know what this is, what this length is. It is unknown to us. Okay, so what is given? We are given that it takes 0.8 seconds to fall past this. So after some time, the ball will reach here, and from this position A to this position B, it takes a total of 0.8 seconds. So how do you attempt this question? First of all, you need to find what is the velocity, initial velocity at the point A. So what you do is you start from the top. At the top, u is equal to 0, or initial velocity is equal to 0. So my v is equal to u plus at is equal to 0 plus 10t is equal to 10 times t. This v is v at the position A. Let us call the velocity at position B as v prime. Alright, so we got the velocity at position A. Now to calculate the velocity at position B, what you do is you consider velocity of A as the initial velocity of the ball, because we are given the time 0.8 seconds between these two. So my initial velocity now is equal to my VA is equal to V is equal to 10t. So V prime is equal to 0 plus 10 into t plus 0.8. T was the time taken for the ball to fall from here to here. This time t plus 0.8 is equal to 10 times t plus 8. Alright, now we go back and look at the equation that I said that was quite important. This was this equation, u plus v by 2 t. This was where s was x minus x naught. Right, let's go up and see. Yeah, this equation, this one. Sorry. So this is the most important equation. You go down. Now you need to apply this equation. What you find is given that the length is 4 meter, so 4 meter is equal to v plus v prime by 2 into time. Time was given to be 0.8 seconds. This gives you 4 is equal to 0.4 into 20t plus 8, which is nothing but 20t is equal to 2, or t is equal to 0.1 seconds. Alright, so we found the time to be 0.1 seconds. Okay, now our main thing was to determine the speed of the ball. So let's look at it. We have v is equal to u plus at based on the first equation from this one. So we have that VA is equal to V is equal to 10 times T is equal to 10 into 0.1 is equal to 1 millisecond, 1 meter per second. Alright, so you found the speed of the ball when it passes the top of the window. Next is, if you need to find the distance between the top of the window and the point of release, it is very straightforward. You don't really need to do much in this thing, because let's look at it. Erase this for your convenience. I think you can already do this on your own, but let's just give you the basic steps. What we have is, you have u is equal to 0. You got final velocity as the VA is equal to did we calculate 1 meter per second? Okay, 1 meter per second. All right, and we found that T is equal to 0.1 second. So our equation S is equal to U plus V by 2 T gives us U is 0, V is 1, 1 by 2 into 0.1 is equal to 1 by 20. So this is your distance. Okay, let's go down. Non-uniform acceleration. Now, till this point, acceleration was a constant. You could use all the above equations only when acceleration was a constant. When acceleration is non-constant, you can't really use these equations in your answers. So always look for the term a constant acceleration in your question. How can acceleration change? Now, acceleration can vary with time, acceleration can vary with position, or acceleration can vary with velocity. These are the three major things. There will be plenty of times when you will be given a question, and I will tell you what exactly to do when you're given acceleration as a function of other things. So first is acceleration as a function of time. This is very familiar to you. If acceleration is given as a function of time, to find the velocity, you just integrate acceleration. So velocity is nothing but the integral of acceleration over time. And similarly, position is nothing but the integral of velocity. This is velocity over time. This is a fairly simple idea. For example, if acceleration is given as 2t, all right. So when you find the velocity, velocity is nothing but 2t into dt is equal to 2t square by 2 is equal to t square plus some constant. All right. Similarly, if you want to find x, what you do is you take integral of v dt, which is fairly simple, so I will not be doing it here. Next is the most tricky one, and next is the probably the one that is asked the most in the problems. Generally, you will be given acceleration as a function of position. So this equation is probably the most important equation you will encounter here. Acceleration is not just acceleration is written as dv by dt, but if you multiply dv by dt by dx by dx, multiplying and dividing does not do anything, and rearranging, you can write dv by dx into dx by dt, which is basically v dv by dx. Alright, so this is probably the most important equation from here, and if you have the acceleration as a term function of position, you can use this equation to find velocity or position. Similarly, if you have the velocity, you can use go one step further, use one more integration to find the position. Similarly, if you go to, let's look at function of velocity, where acceleration is given as a function of velocity, you can find velocity as a function of time. Also, if you use the previous equation, you can find velocity as a function of position. So these relations can be asked in the questions, and we will look at some of the questions in the assignments where this happens. So without wasting more time, let's go to one of the questions to clear out some of our doubts. Let's take a look at this equation with this question. It's given a particle is moving along the y-axis. Sorry, it's the x-axis. I'll correct this. A particle moves along the x-axis following the law A is equal to minus 4x. The particle crosses the origin at t is equal to 0 with the velocity of 2 meters per second along the positive x direction. The question asks us to find what is the velocity as a function of position and what is the position as a function of time. So here this is the application of the second thing that we learned, acceleration as a function of position. So what do you do in these type of questions? We know that acceleration is equal to v into dv by dx. That implies v dv is equal to minus 4x dx because acceleration is equal to minus 4x. Now that is a simple integration. So we have 2 to v dv is equal to minus 4 times 0 to x dx. That implies velocity is nothing but root over 1 minus x square. Now it is given that at t is equal to 0, the velocity is positive. So we drop the negative sign. So we just get velocity is equal to 2 root 1 minus x square. So what did we do? We found that the velocity as a function of position when acceleration is given as a function of position. Now let's look at the second one, position as a function of time. Now you have position somewhere here. Now you want to find how this varies with time. So now this is a fairly easy equation that you've already seen before. We know that v is equal to dx by dt. That implies if you put this in this equation above, you find that dx divided by root 1 minus x square is nothing but 2 times dt. Alright. Now we take a basic integration on both sides. So what you get is integral 0 to x dx by root 1 minus x square is equal to 2 times integral dt, which gives you the answer as x is equal to sine 2t. So you got the second answer as well. So we right now saw how this equation has been used many times in JEE before. So you should take note of this. Acceleration will not always be given as a function of time. It's a very easy question to solve. Now let's go for projectile motions. You've learned in your, I think, either board syllabus or if you've prepared enough before, what a projectile motion is. Projectile motion is basically a 2D motion where you throw a ball or someone shoots a cannon from a ground or from a building. If you throw it vertically, horizontally if this is a building, you can throw it horizontally, you can throw it up. If you're standing on the ground, you can throw it like this. Anywhere you throw, it's a 2-dimensional motion with acceleration in 1 dimension, which is the vertical direction. Now, how do you approach problems of projectile motion? First of all, you should go back and revise what vectors are properly, because in acceleration, all you need to do, even if you don't remember any formulas, all you need to do is you need to be able to split vectors into their components. So if u was the velocity, you should know how to split it into ux and uy, because every time you will be given some angle theta and you will be given some initial velocity u. Also, at any point during the trajectory, if this is the trajectory of the particle on the ground, at any point v, you can find the velocity of the particle. For example, if the velocity is in this direction, you should be able to split it into Vx and Vy. Why this is important? Let's look why. Because the x direction and the y direction motions are linearly independent. What this means is whatever happens in the x direction does not influence whatever happens in the y direction at all. So you basically need to solve 1D equations only. You don't need to solve any complex 2D equations or coupled equations when it comes to projectile motion. So let's look at some of the important formulas from this chapter. Uh, First, look at this diagram. You are projecting a ball at a velocity u initially with an angle theta. It reaches the maximum height h. It has a time of flight t. It takes time t to go from 0 to this point, and the range is the distance between the initial point and the final point. So this is the equation of motion for this body. It's y in terms of x. So what you find is what all do you need? You just need the initial velocity, you need the theta, and then you can easily find a relation between position y coordinate and the x coordinate. So this can be asked in the paper, so it's easier for you to remember this. Second is, if range is already given to you, then this is another formula that can be used. Another, what you need is, here you don't need u, all you need is whatever range is given to you, so you can find a relation between y and x. All right. The things that you should remember are, what is t, what is h. T is time of flight, h is your maximum height. So uy is basically u is equal to ux plus I cap plus uy j cap. So once you split your initial velocity into two components, is equal to u cos theta, this is u sin theta, I cap and j cap. All right, so t is 2uy by g and h is equal to uy square by 2g. Similarly, range is ux into t, which is u square sine 2 theta by g. How do you actually remember this in the paper? So a basic trick is, sometimes you might forget how h looked like or how r looked like. So this formula is often used in problems. H by r is nothing but tan theta by 4. So if you ever forget what the formula for r was or what the formula of h was, all you need to do is remember this formula if one of them is given, or you can directly use this. For example, if my h is equal to u square sine square theta by 2g, while my r is equal to u square sine 2 theta by g. So even if I don't remember what these were, because they're somewhat similar, one is sine square theta, one is sine 2 theta, sine square theta, sine 2 theta. So if you don't remember what was there, so you can use this function to get the values back. All right. Now let's look at a basic problem. This came in AIEEE 2003. All right. So before doing this, let's just go back and tell you of some basic things. At the highest point, the acceleration, which is g, is perpendicular to the velocity vector. Sometimes they will just tell you that at the position where acceleration is perpendicular to velocity, find something. So this is what you should take note of in your preparations. Let's quickly look at one of the questions. A boy playing on the roof of a 10-meter high building throws a ball with the speed of 10 meters per second at an angle of 30 degrees. Let's make a roof. This is my roof. He threw a ball at 10 meters per second at an angle of 30 degrees. How far from the throwing point will the ball be at the height of 10 meters from the ground? Now, this is you might think you will be requiring the entire equations to solve this, but this is a very simple question, because what you see is initial height of the body is also 10 meter, and we want to see where it reaches when the height is again 10 meter. So basically, when the ball is thrown, you want to observe its motion right here. So it's basically again at the same height. You can consider this as your ground then. So you're basically throwing something from the ground and then seeing what the range will be. So as you already know, there is a formula for range above. So range is equal to u square sine 2 theta by g. You substitute the values, 2n square sine 2 into how much? 30 degrees. 30 degrees is in terms of yeah, and you need to convert this to radians is equal to 5 root 3 is equal to 8.66 meter. All right, so this is a fairly easy question. Now let's look at relative motion. Relative motion is a very important concept while studying kinematics. What relative motion means is you have a body A, and you need to find how this body looks like when observed from a body B. So generally it's basically like two reference frames. You have a body in one reference frame. This is the position vector for the body in, let's say, frame S. This is S prime. Okay, this is my opening. And similarly, the same body seen from another object has another position vector. So what you need to find is how does this vector like depend on this vector, or how is it different from this vector. Let's simplify this a little with some basic example. First, let's look at the important formula. VAB, or velocity of A with respect to B, is nothing but VA minus VB. Similarly, acceleration of AB is acceleration of A with respect to B is AA minus AB. Why do we subtract it? Basically, what we mean to say is, if two bodies are there, and if I want to see what is the velocity of A with respect to B, I assume that B comes to rest. If B stops its motion, how will the velocity of A look like to him? For example, if I am moving in a car, all right, and there is another car going in front of me. So for me, I am sitting in the car, I can say that maybe the car is going at some 10 kilometer per hour more than me, because there is only a little distance and I know my speed, right? But if I stop my vehicle, I want to see, if I stop my vehicle, if I stop moving, how fast was this actually going? Okay, so this it's way more than what you want. So that is the entire concept of relative velocity. You want the velocity of this body B, this car B, when you assume that you become at rest or you stop your motion. All right, so it might be a little tricky. Let's look at the important things from this chapter. You are generally, there are two kinds of questions. Swimming question is generally that is asked in JEE, or if you know this question, you can basically do any other question that is there. This is a famous question. So they ask you what is the shortest distance that man can take, and then what is the shortest time. So you already know that shortest time will be taken when you're moving along the perpendicular direction. That is because uh, when VMR is velocity of man with respect to the ground, all right, and similarly VM is velocity of man with respect to ground. So this is with respect to river. VMR is with respect to river. VM is equal to velocity of man with respect to ground, and VR is equal to velocity of a river with respect to ground. So what you should remember is, in order to reach in the quickest time, you need to go perpendicular to the flow of the river. In order to take the minimum distance, you need to go against the river at an angle theta from the vertical. Here also you should take note of how to split vectors into components. So yeah, that's it. Let's first look at the questions and then some things will be clear to you. A boy standing still on the ground observes the rain falling vertically. Alright, this is a famous question. When he rides a bike at 4 meters per second, he has to hold his umbrella at an angle 53 degrees from the vertical. Find the velocity of the rain. So what we know is velocity of rain is in the vertical direction. Alright, because when he is standing still, he's assuming that it is vertical. So this is VRG, which is velocity of rain with respect to ground. Velocity of ground is 0. Alright. Similarly, velocity of man becomes in the right direction, which is 4 meter per second. Now, what he observes is, he observes a velocity of rain with respect to man. With respect to his motion, he observes that the rain is coming at an angle. So let's go back to vectors. This is a simple question. How to do it? You just draw the vectors, velocity of rain, draw velocity of man, and you draw velocity of rain with respect to man is equal to VR minus Vm. Alright, now this is given to be 53 degree, so this is 37 degree. Now this is a right angle triangle. Alright, so you can easily see that VR is equal to Vm tan 37 degree is equal to 3 meter per second. Alright, so this is how you do the relative velocity questions. We will look at more questions in the assignment section. Circular motion, let's look at circular motion. In circular motion, your particle is going along a circle. It is continuously has an acceleration. Now, whether there are two kinds of acceleration, one is tangential, which is in the tangent direction, AT. Another is centripetal, which is in the central direction. This is responsible for change in speed, and centripetal is responsible for change in direction. Now there are some important formulas from this question, from this quantity. Omega is the rate of change of theta with respect to time. Theta is the angle that the body is making from the center. Similarly, AT is dv by dt, or tangential acceleration, is basically alpha r. Alpha is equal to d omega by dt. Omega is equal to vr, and centripetal acceleration is v square by r or omega square r. This will be used in the following chapters, so this is an important thing to remember. Again, in vector form, v is equal to omega cross r. Now, how is it similar and how it will be asked in the questions? With uniform acceleration, you have the same equations, just like your rectilinear motion questions. Instead of v, you have omega. V is switched to omega. Instead of x, it's switched to theta. And instead of a, you have alpha. Rest everything remains the same. Alright, so let's quickly look at one of the question. A particle moves in a circular path with constant tangential acceleration. So let's just make us, whenever you get a question, it's very easy to solve it when you just make the quick diagram on the side of it. Particle moves in a circular path with constant tangential acceleration. After 2 seconds from it starting its motion, let the particle be here. The angle between the radius and the total acceleration vector becomes 45. So let the total acceleration vector be this. Alright, let this be the radius. This is the acceleration. Now first what you do is you break acceleration into two components. One is tangential and one is normal. Now you know that normal component or the centripetal component is along the center. Okay, now it is given that this angle acceleration r is 45 degrees. Alright, what this means is, because this is 45 degrees, so the modulus of a centripetal is equal to the modulus of a tangent, as angle is 45 degrees in the triangle. Basically, when you, this is the hypotenuse and then you find the x component. For example, this is a, this is AC, this is AT. So if this angle is 45 degree, so you basically get this thing. Nothing to worry about. First thing is mod n is equal to mod AT. So that implies alpha r is equal to omega square r from the above equations, or alpha is equal to omega square. This is the first equation. Now you need use the equations of motion. Omega is equal to omega naught plus alpha t. That implies omega naught is equal to 0. T is equal to 2 given in the question. That implies omega is equal to 2 alpha. Alright, now you use 1 and 2. You use 1 and 2, and what you get is alpha is equal to omega square, that implies omega is equal to 2 alpha, or alpha is equal to 0.25 radians per second. So what this question did was it used all the formula, most of the topics, one formula from this and one formula from this. This is the kind of question that you might expect from circular motion. Now in the last 15 minutes, let's look at the previous year's problems from these chapters. We will include problems from AIEEE, JEE and JEE Mains 2019 as well. Alright, let's move to the first problem quickly. First problem is given like a moving ball is described by the coordinates x is something and y is something. Then the speed of the ball will be given by what? Now you remember that speed of the ball is nothing but the modulus of the velocity. So speed is equal to mod v. Now you need to calculate velocity first. You're given position and y. So you know that you can split your vectors into two components. So if x is given as this, we have Vx is given as dx by dt is equal to 2 times ct. Similarly, Vy is equal to dy by dt is equal to 2 times bt. That implies you got the two components, one component and the second component. Every time if you are given with two components, you can separately do them. There is no jumbling up of equations. Alright, so just look at what is given in the question. So you get Vx, you get Vy, and to find speed you use this formula. So you get V is equal to root Vx square y square is equal to 2t times c square plus v square, which is this one. All these are previous year's problems. Let's go down, let's go look at this question. Mohit throws a ball vertically up from a point A on a stationary platform fixed to the ground. Alright, so basically it's just to confuse you, this is basically the ground. It takes t1 seconds to pass the point B. Let us say this is point B. Alright, a ball is thrown from here, from the ground, and it takes t1 seconds to reach B, but it still continues to move up. If it takes further t2 time to reach the ground, now the ball will go up, okay, and then it will come down. So this trajectory from here to the ground is taking t2 seconds. Then height of the point B from the ground is, now you need to find the height of the point B. The question might seem a little tricky, but it's not at all tricky. Just look at what all is given. When you're given time, what else are you given? Let's look at it. So you're given 2 times and you need to find height. You need to find the height. Now let's see how to do this. Now it's given that the total time of flight is t1 plus t2, starting from A coming back to A. Alright, that is the first one. Now to find the initial value, the displacement is equal to, for the entire duration in the y direction, displacement is u into t1 plus t2 minus half at square. A is g here. Alright, now because displacement is going from A going up and coming back here, so the net displacement is 0 in the y direction. So s becomes 0, and what you get is g by 2 t1 plus t2 is equal to u. Alright, so you found out what the u was, or the initial velocity was. Now at t is equal to t1, height is given by L. Now let's see what the height is. Height is equal to ut1 minus g by 2 t1 square, which is the height of the ball B. Okay, you just use the previous equation. What you get is g by 2 t1 plus t2 into t1 minus g by 2 t1 square. Alright, so what you get is h is equal to g by 2 t1 plus t2 minus t1 is equal to g by 2 t1 t2. Alright, how much time did it take? It took around 1 minute to 2 minutes to find the answer. So answer is D. Always remember, the basic questions are the same. You don't need to use any other equation in rectilinear motion. So don't be afraid of the question. This came in JEE Mains 2013 and it also repeated in IEEE before. So let's look at what is given. You are given a projectile is given an initial velocity. So this is your u, where I is along the ground and j is along the vertical, which is fairly simple. And what you're given is you're given the acceleration. Alright, so this is a 2D motion question. Alright, so it's basically similar to a projectile motion question. So let's just write what is given to us. We need to find the equation of the trajectory. Now what is the equation of a trajectory? In the questions of the equation of a trajectory, you need to find a relation between the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Alright, so how do you do that? The general principle is finding a relation between x and y with respect to some other implicit variable, for example t. I'll just explain to you how that works. Just first write what is given to you. You are given I plus 2j as the u. Now first split it into two components. You have ux is I and you have uy as 2j. Alright, this is given in the question. Now if I want to find my position vector from ux, alright, you know that there is no acceleration in the x direction. So my position vector is equal to ux into time is equal to 1 into t is equal to d. This is for x. Alright, now if I want to find the same thing in y, so y is equal to sy minus uyt plus half at square, which is from the normal equation. So sy is equal to 2t minus half into 10t square, right? So y is equal to sy is equal to 2t minus 5t square. Therefore y is equal to 2 times x minus 5x square, or 5x square minus 2x plus y is equal to 0. So what did we do? We tried to write our equation in terms of t, and then we substituted the value of t into the other one and we found the answer. Note that x is equal to this, sx is equal to x here. Alright, so this is a fairly simple problem, and we see that the answer for this equation is given. Let's go to the next one. A projectile can have the same range r for two angles of projection. Okay, this is a projectile motion question again, and it came in IEEE, and a similar question came in JEE Mains 2019 as well. So let's look at it. If t1 and t2 be the times of flight in the two cases, then the product of the two times of flight is proportional to what? What is given to us? They are given some times and they have talked about range. Now they have said that it is the same range. Now what you should remember from projectile motion is ranges are same for the angles theta and the angles 90 minus theta. For both the angles, the range is the same, right? So this is to be noted. Now you start the question. You have the time of flight is given as 2u sine theta by g. Alright, that implies t1 is equal to 2u sine theta by g, and t2 is equal to 2u sine 90 minus theta by g, because it is same for theta and 90 minus theta. Why now sine 90 minus theta is nothing but 2u cos theta by g. So what did you get? You got the formula for T1, you got the formula for T2. Now what you do is you multiply T1 and T2 is equal to 2u square 2 sine theta cos theta divided by g square, which is nothing but 2 by g into u square sine 2 theta by g, which is nothing but this quantity was your r. So you have 2 by g into r. This is fairly simple. Okay, is this quantity there? Yeah. So what you find is it is proportional to r. This is the right answer. Let's look at one more question. This came in 2019, so you should definitely focus on this. And this is something that troubles most of the students that I've seen. It's very simple, and let's look at it. It's a question from relative motion. A passenger train of length L, let's say this is my passenger train, just try to draw it. Passenger train, length 60 meter, this is 60 meter, travels at speed of 80 km per hour, this is 80. Another freight train is your Mal Gadi. Another freight train of length 120 meter travels at the speed, this is 120 meter freight train. Okay, and it travels at the speed 120. Sorry, it's 120 meters in length, and it travels at the speed of 30 km per hour. All right. The ratio of times taken by the passenger train to completely cross the freight trains when they are moving in same direction and opposite direction. So how do you do this? It's a question from relative velocity. All right. So what do you mean by taking over? Let's consider the first case. Okay, when P and F are going in the same direction. So let this be, this is the entire train. So what you want is this train to go forward, okay, reach here like this. If this is point A, this is point B. First point A will reach here while B will be somewhere here, and the train will start to overtake it till the point where A becomes here and B just crosses it. All right. So this distance, this is the condition that we are interested in. So let's see what happens. First is we need to find the relative velocity. Now what we assume is I want to find that if I stop this car, what will be the velocity of this one? Because if I have a stopped car, then it's very easy for me to know how far it will go. If I have a stopped vehicle, it's easier to see how fast something goes by, right? So I assume F is at rest. How do you do that? I define something called VPF is equal to VP minus VF is equal to 80 minus 30 is equal to 50. This is my relative velocity of P when F is at rest. All right. Now we need to find time is equal to distance upon velocity, or VPF. Now what is the distance that I need to travel? Now when this is at rest, when F is at rest, F is just standing there because I have taken relative velocity now. F is standing. My train has to travel this much distance, plus it has to travel a distance so that its last point comes here while the first point comes here. Like this condition has to be fulfilled. Okay, so the distance is nothing but the full distance of the freight train plus the entire distance of the passenger train. So my distance in this question becomes 120 plus 60, and I know that VPF is 50, so I get 18 by 5. All right, let's look at the second part. Here the passenger train and the freight train are coming towards each other. Again, let's assume that this freight train is at a velocity of 0. It's standing still. So what will be the velocity of P? So now the new velocity of P, VPF, is equal to, because they are in the same direction, it's 80 plus 30, because if this is positive x direction, that is negative x direction, and when I subtract, it's basically 80 minus 30. All right. So it's 110 km per hour. All right. Now when you need to find the time is equal to distance by velocity is equal to, now again what happens here, this is your passenger train, this is your freight train. Now freight train is stationary, passenger train has to go here. First it starts crossing here. If this is point A, this is point B. first it will pass the entire thing, and then it will move a distance so that B comes here and A becomes here. So it has to travel this distance plus it has to travel the distance of its own length. So we have 120 plus 60 again in the numerator divided by new velocity, which is 18 by 11. So when you take the ratios of 2, you get the ratio as 11 by 5, which is there in the answers, I think. Yeah, we are supposed to find, yeah, this one. All right, 1 hour is almost up, so I will just quickly wrap up the problems. There are 2 more problems left, so just bear with me. I think 1 more problem is left. This is the last one. So why am I taking this problem? Because every year the equation of path or the equation of trajectory is used in some way or the other, either in this question or in some other context. So how do you attempt these questions? First of all, a particle is moving with velocity v. So you are given velocity. How do you start? Let's like the previous question. You first split velocity into 2 components. So Vx is equal to Ky and Vy is equal to Kx. Alright, now I know this is equal to dx by dt. Similarly, this is equal to dy by dt. Alright, whenever you get any question, do not panic at all. Alright, if something is given as components, first split it open and then use basic questions that were there that you already know. So there is no need to panic. Now, what you do is you need to find the relation between x and y. So how can I relate these two? What if I divide these two? So dx by dt, I'll make it more easier for you to understand. I'll say dy by dt divided by dx by dt, right? Which is what? Which is basically dy by dx, which is basically kx divided by ky, which is from these 2 equations. Alright, so you got a relation between x and y. Now you can easily see it's a derivative equation. To find x and y, what you will do is you will take the integral. So from this equation you see that y dy is equal to x dx. That implies y square is equal to x square plus c. Let's see if this is somewhere. Y is equal to x square plus c. This is the answer. Alright, so we are done with the questions for this chapter. Most important tricks and tips from this chapter are, first of all, you need to be thorough with all the formulas in the chapter. Relative motion is one question that is fairly seen in all the questions. Most of the times it will come as a rectilinear motion question, but even if it comes as a 2D question, you should be aware of it. So I will be giving you an assignment where there will be questions of relative motion in 2 dimensions. So it will be a rain problem or a boat problem or an airplane problem. The problems are multiple. Also, the circular motion is rarely seen in questions because circular motion comes in the Newton's laws of motion when the questions come. But some basic things that I want to touch upon that you should definitely remember is, first of all, whenever you see a question, you are not supposed to panic. Alright, the basic steps are the same. You first take note of whatever is given in the question, whether it is time, whether it is length, and then you go back and see, are there any formulas that are connecting those two? There are not many formulas to learn. Even if you don't learn anything, learn these formulas, these 3. These are enough to do everything, and go back and practice some vectors so that you are able to split vectors whenever the time requires. In the entire course, you will be required to split vectors into 1, 2 or 3 dimensions. Alright, so general backup will help. I will be giving you assignments with this, and hopefully I will see you in the next class, and when we start off with even a more exciting topic to cover, which is Newton's laws of motion, where every time at least 1 or 2 questions come in the paper. So thank you for your patience and see you soon.